On to this special Facebook Live with Dr. Judith Pence. I have her here with me today, and I want to introduce you to her. And we can talk today about food as medicine and all kinds of things about having optimum health. So let me introduce Judith to you. For too long, integrative medicine has hovered at the edges of mainstream Western medicine. But Judith is an integrative psychiatrist, and she has a new book coming out August 11th. The book is Cleanse Your Body, Reveal Your Soul, and it is a map that shows us all how we may integrate practices into the core of our contemporary lives. She's got the science, she's got the soul, and she's here to talk to you today about a little preview for a longer Facebook Live that we'll do next week, where we will bring in your questions about food as medicine. A few more things about Judith before we turn it over to all of her wisdom. She's practiced as a psychiatrist for 28 years, maybe 29 now, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where she's on the faculty at the University of New Mexico as an assistant professor and attending child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist. She's spoken all over the world about integrative health, including Ayurvedic healing in her presentations, written chapters for textbooks about it, but her book is really going to be about her personal experience exploring that for her own healing. She went to India for a Panchakarma cleanse, and that has profoundly shifted her life, something she only once hoped possible. She has personally experienced the cleanse and seen the power of it in the significant changes she has instituted in her life, her health, and her career. And just to get to know her is to make you want to just be healthier and healthier every day. This is really sort of the hidden gem behind it. And one of the ideas that's deeply embedded in her book and deeply embedded in Ayurveda, which is the science of life, is this idea that food is medicine. So, Judith, I'm so glad that we're doing this together, and I look forward to this conversation. My first question to you is, how did you come to this idea that we need to think about food as medicine?
Well, that's been a process for me. It wasn't an overnight thing. And I think with the help of Ayurveda, I certainly saw the importance of it. I know here in the United States, we've learned a lot about how we want food to be a part of our life. But I think one of the things that we need to step back from is think about food as medicine, and food is medicine. And so when we're thinking about that latest food that we want to eat or that latest drink that we want to drink, the question we need to ask is this food actually there to support us and to be life-giving, or is that food actually going to be life-draining? You know, a small example in terms of the challenge we have in the United States, and I see this actually internationally too, is the consumption of soda, for example. And that particular product is actually a man-made product that has no nutritional value, yet time and time again, I see people challenged with being stuck with drinking soda and it creates all kinds of health problems. And so when we're talking about food as medicine, it's like, what food can you change in your life so that you can make a choice that adds a health-giving quality to your daily food intake? You know, so if we talk about food as medicine, you have to think about when you take medicine, you have to take the right amount. You have to take the right amount for you, be it for the child, be it for the adult. You got to take enough, not too little, not too much. And that's the way the challenge lies in terms of food is how do I bring food into my life or liquids, nutrition, water, whatever, so that it is actually supporting me. So for me, that's the important piece that I would like to get across to people. And it's a small step, but an important step in trying to change your relationship with how food is in your life.
Leading up to the debut of your book on August 11th, you have been posting on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and been blogging at your website, which is drpence.com. And you've been talking about different types of foods specifically that can really help you and shining the spotlight on those. So, could you
Mhm.
talk a little bit about some of those key foods?
Sure. Cilantro is one particular herb that I think is really, really nice to have in one's life. It's easy to come by these days. You can actually grow it in your backyard. I know that my daughter is having some success, and so is her mother-in-law. And it's such a healthy herb and a pleasant herb. It's the one that we usually put in when we're making guacamole. And it has many properties to it that are very, very supportive. It helps to actually cool down your gut. It also helps to improve digestion. And, and interestingly, it actually helps to detox the body from heavy metals. And it's one of the few herbs out there that actually is able to do that. It has anti-inflammatory and antiviral effects too, so it's pretty amazing in that way. Along that line, I wanted to mention about ginger tea, because ginger tea is actually best fresh grated and made into a hot tea. You certainly can let it cool off, and then you can add whatever herbs you'd like to it. But that also is an anti-inflammatory type of herb that you can have every day in a tea drink. You can also cook with ginger in various ways that really adds a lot of flavor. Yet it also supports you in so many ways, including, as I mentioned, improving digestion and reduces inflammation and helps to actually flush the body of toxins that have built up in the body.
And I think cumin is very good for you too.
Cumin is very good, and
Yeah.
what's really unique about cumin is that it actually is a great source of iron, of all things. And often, when I'm working with people that I've seen over time, especially kids that have what we refer to as ADD type behaviors, we've
Mm.
found that they may be low in a certain amount of iron. And here would be actually a wonderful herb that would really support, their well-being, and easy to add into the food. And there's many recipe books that actually use cumin. It's a Middle Eastern herb and has many antiviral and antibacterial properties too. So it actually supports the body in various ways.
How can people get started to incorporate that into their lives? I think some of it is, you mentioned dosage, but some of it you've also mentioned is timing,
Correct.
like when you eat it during the day.
Well, for example, ginger tea is probably best in the morning, and could be the first beverage of your day. It can be stimulating, can actually help with your daily bowel movement, which is best to have first thing in the morning. And once a day is actually ideal. It's not a topic many people talk about, but it's one that is so important in terms of our overall health to have, steady and regular bowel movements. So, and in terms of the herbs, you certainly can use them almost like a condiment where you are accenting your plate. And if you're having a rice dish, you can simply have some cilantro with it. I know when, in terms of Vietnamese food or Asian food, oftentimes it's an accent that's part of the meal, and it's not just there for decoration. It's actually there to be enjoyed and eaten, and supports your digestion, and then all those other things that I mentioned as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's a plus that it's there for decoration because most of these foods are so colorful and lively
Mhm.
that they do probably activate your best relationship with food.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of these are grounded in Ayurvedic principles. Can you connect that for us just a little bit more and tell us and maybe after that tell us how like next week we can kind of start to take it into. I think you've got a worksheet that's available on your website
Mhm.
that
Good.
people can download ahead of time so that they can participate a little bit more.
Mhm.
But yeah, describe that a little bit more about how you can take them a little bit more deeply into this and how it really is informed by Ayurveda.
So, in terms of food, each of us have a certain constitution that we have as human beings. And I know in our culture, we have a sense of people that are maybe on the thinner side, people are more medium in build, and then there are those who are maybe on the heftier side and just strong in their overall physique. Each of those constitutions actually have a certain support through Ayurvedic information that helps them support that constitution and in the most optimum health that's possible. So, for example, ginger tea typically can be good for all of us in terms of our constitutions. But if somebody is actually overheated and having issues with too much spicy food, that type of thing, having a less strong dose of ginger tea or none for a while may be an indication. So part of the whole piece about Ayurveda is understanding your own constitution and making supportive dietary changes with that in mind, and then making choices in terms of the different foods and that type of thing. It's a process in terms of understanding that. And then there's also many cookbooks that actually support, once you understand what kind of constitution you have, that cookbooks actually help support that process of what recipe you might want to use. And then you can actually modify the recipe to support your constitution. And that part is very, usually fairly well explained in the book and in the cookbook that I mentioned. And there are also, what I can do is think of some websites that people can go to that actually have maybe a screening in terms of their constitution that would further support that concept that I'm talking about. So then people come in understanding a little bit about, when I might mention the word pitta or kapha or vata, they might have an understanding of the importance of picking a food for that particular constitution. But typically, the herbs that I've mentioned would be good for all our constitutions. But again, it's a matter of how much and the right dose for that person.
Okay.
So,
We do have a question here from somebody who is watching us now.
okay.
How do you discover your constitution to make the right choice?
So there actually are a few websites out there that help support that process. Here locally, I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We actually have an herb company that's national called Banyan Botanicals, and that's Banyans, actually no S, and then botanicals with an S.com. And they actually have a great screening and gives you some basic information about your own constitution so that you can have a better idea of how to better take care of yourself. And
There's also, you have you have a resources area on your website as
yeah,
well.
correct.
Some of the cookbooks that you're thinking of are listed in that resource area. And just for anybody who's watching, listening, it's www.drpence.com, drpence.com.
Thank you for reminding me. You're right. And we do have.
Yes. Yeah. Um, what are you seeing during this pandemic in terms of increased interest in wellness? And particularly, what about what is happening with that can inform our resilience with our health and how to have optimum wellness? That's a big question. I asked you the pandemic question.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good one because I've actually written a couple blogs with this in mind. And I think one of the biggest challenges that we have right now is working past the fear that we have around what is this virus and what's it doing to us. And at the end of the day, not this most recent blog, but a couple beyond that, I mentioned that strengthening your immune system or creating a level of resilience in your immune system allows you then to weather the impact of whatever can happen with exposure to the virus. And if you looked for ways to create resilience in your immune system, it allows you then to have the armor, so to speak, to not allow the infection from the virus even to happen. And if it does, you're able to fight it off because your immune system is, an incredible, well-oiled machine in the terms of machine. If you take care of it, and food as medicine helps to support your immune system. So again, when you're choosing foods and you're trying to think about how do I take care of myself, is this food life affirming for me, or is this food life draining for me? Is something to think about going forward and saying, is this the best food? Now, having said that, it's not like I don't ever do junk food. I can't. I have a 5.5 grandson. I know that junk food enters the picture, and it's not like I never do it, but it's not my daily consumption, and it's not his daily consumption. And so I'm living in the real world, is what I'm saying, and I understand that we have to embrace some of the food that's out there, but it can't become your daily consumption to the point where that's all you eat, because it is made with not a lot of the food is not necessarily real food. And there's a saying out there: if the ingredient box that you're looking at has more than 7 ingredients and you can't pronounce what's in it, then it's not real food. So part of what it is trying to get back to a level of food choices that are, again, life-giving and life-affirming, as opposed to I have to feed myself today, and that's what I'm going to eat. So again, especially in the summertime here, we have the abundance of fruits and vegetables, and including that is so, so important. Part of the work I do at the university is I work with Native Americans, and I heard about a certain tribe that actually part of the COVID intervention that they did was to actually create deliveries to all the homes in this one vicinity of fresh fruits and vegetables. And the gratitude I heard from the Native American families was immense, and has helped them, again, to have resilience in their life because they've had fresher, healthier foods to be able to eat and share with their families. So, for me, again, it's not wanting to not make a choice about not ever having a McDonald's meal or whatever, but it's more about that is the exception and not the rule in terms of how we end up making choices.
We have a question here about examples of meals you eat. Like, what would your average, like, really good, healthy food as medicine day look like?
So, I actually probably one day, maybe 2 days a week, I will fast in the morning, and then we'll have a lighter meal during the day and into the evening on a day where I'm not wanting to consume, because it helps to actually calm to actually not eat for a period of time does 2 things. It actually stokes your digestive fire, and it also helps to create a rest in the body in terms of having to work so hard, because the body, when it eats, when we eat, I should say, the digestive process actually has to work pretty hard to make the food, become the true medicine that all the cells need in the body. And so from an Ayurvedic perspective, your biggest meal actually should be during the lunchtime, which is 11 to 2, and then a lighter meal into the evening. So, and then a more regular day, I might have a boiled egg with maybe a slice of toast. And then lunch could be khichdi, which is actually a rice dish that I will look to post on my website.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it's very healing, and it is kind of it's the go-to in Ayurveda when the tummy needs to rest. One is not feeling well. It's very supportive in its nutrients. It's a combination of basmati rice and dal, and a few herbs, again, that can really help, including the cumin that we mentioned,
Hmm.
and a few others, and the ginger that I mentioned. Vegetables, steamed vegetables, or I'll saute vegetables, and keep it really simple.
That's wonderful. That's great. So you're going to touch on intermittent fasting next week. When we talk a little bit more and we go into more depth with the food as medicine worksheet, but intermittent fasting, there's lots of different ways to do it and try it, but you're going to tell us a little bit more about how it can be informed by Ayurveda and how you can find what fits you.
Right. And I wanted to mention I've invited Leslie Korn, Korn, who is a colleague of mine who lives in Mexico, actually, but has written a couple of books related to food as medicine as well. And we've talked about sharing all the wisdom that we have together with the Facebook Live, and discussing, the importance of what we're talking about today from a broader perspective. And I wanted to mention that though the book is focusing on Ayurveda, my own personal life and in my practice, it is much broader than that. I have more of an integrative approach where I try to take the best of many worlds, and really have an approach that allows for, it's kind of like, how should I say this? I can't say that I never prescribe medicine anymore, but I do know that I try to minimize exposure in terms of medication, because there are times when there is a need for it. And so it is with taking a broader approach in terms of problem solving. I look to see what works for people, and for myself, for that matter.
Well, I think you also bring a body, mind, spirit approach to it. And we've been talking about food as medicine in its role for physical health, but even when you were speaking about just um, really boosting your immune system and optimizing your immune system,
Mhm.
food as medicine really has a beneficial effect then on your mental health, which further boosts your immune system. Could you
Correct.
speak a little bit about that? We have another question here that I will get to after that.
Okay. So, so there's a relationship between this, your immune system and your emotional system. Okay. And the stronger your emotional system is, the stronger your immune system is, the stronger your immune system is, the resilience then translates into stronger and more supportive mental health. Physical body, too. You can't separate the two, though we try to in allopathic medicine. The two aren't separated. And so through a form of exercise that appeals to you, through nutrition that's really supportive for you, ultimately, and then looking for ways to calm your mind, be it through contemplation, through prayer, through meditation, through simply sharing a mantra that means something to you. All those are ways to help increase resilience in your overall state of mind, and ultimately into your body.
Well, I want to get to this other question, and it is a question around food sensitivity. You
Mhm.
may see it there posted on the screen. Your
Okay.
opinion about food sensitivity testing. Is it something you would say is at least worth taking as a baseline of what you should or should not be eating?
So it's a good question, Anne Marie. And with regards to that, what I would say is, if you're finding that you're having digestive issues and particular health issues after you've had certain foods, and also having issues with swelling, that type of thing, and what looks like an allergic reaction, within 10 to 20 minutes after eating a food, that to me is an indication that there could be a problem. So getting testing is actually more easily done these days, and can be an approach to the problem. The other thing is, you can eliminate it from your diet and reintroduce it in 6 weeks, because after 6 weeks, sometimes the sensitivity actually is removed. because our own gut actually goes through a 6-week rejuvenation cycle. You get a new lining every 6 weeks.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Thanks for telling me.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell me a little bit what it's like when you and Leslie Korn get together and talk, because that's a little bit of what people are going to get next week. We will be at the same time next week,
Right.
11 a.m. Mountain, 10 a.m. Pacific, which means 1 p.m. Eastern. And it'll be on Judith's Facebook Live and YouTube channels. But what's it like when I've heard about Leslie for years? So what's it like when you and Leslie get together?
So Leslie and I met on a trip to Cuba that I'd organized maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, and we just hit it off. She is a person who has an incredible background in body-mind medicine. She also has studied nutrition quite a bit. She was a body worker for a number of years and has integrated a lot of that information together with some of the books that she has. She actually has an online training course too that she can talk to, that she's just putting together now for mental health practitioners, social workers, nurses, etc., that maybe have an interest in bringing this knowledge into their practice. And she's been able to actually arrange for CEUs for that particular population as well. So she has a lot to offer and is very dynamic. And when we chat, it's hard to stop us sometimes.
You know, one of the things that has always really struck me about our work together, as you have developed this book and now you're trying to get it all this wonderful message out into the world,
Mm-hmm.
is just how healthy you are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that um, sort of speaks volumes to me. Is that you have you're a very, very healthy person. You're a very, very resilient person. So you live what you're talking about.
I make an attempt to do that every day. Not always successful, but I do. Yeah, I. You know, it's interesting you say that. You know, it's hard. Um, it's been important for me to be able to walk my talk,
Yeah.
and the other thing is for me, when I transitioned into doing more integrative medicine in the last 15 years or so, I realized that everything that I was sharing with the public at the time, and then with some of my colleagues more recently, that I was a prescriber for a number of years, yet none of those medicines I've ever tried. Okay. And
Mm,
I'm the one writing the prescription and telling you what you need to be doing. And now with this shift that I've created for myself, I can honestly say that the majority of what I've discussed and say it has value in terms of your own life and resilience and creating resilience for you, I've actually had experience with it myself.
mhm.
And so I come from a place of knowing and awareness and wisdom, as opposed to I learned this and this is what you need to do.
Yeah. And I think you've gone about doing it in a very conscious way.
Mhm.
Um, and I remember you talking about just a quest for healing. I mean, it's something you've been doing in your work all of your life is helping people find that.
Mhm.
And I think part of the quest for that led you to India, which led you to writing this book, which is
Right.
Cleanse Your Body, Reveal Your Soul. I will say it early and often for you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. So I think we're almost done for today. I've appreciated doing this, and do join us next week. I welcome more questions and look forward to doing more of these Facebook Live as I get more brave about doing it.
And one of the best ways to keep up with any of the events that Judith is having is to go on over to her website and get on her mailing list. So great that you're on her social media too. Like you find out lots of stuff there. But if you go on over to her website and get on her mailing list, you will never miss anything that she's offering, which has a great deal of value. So I just want to thank everybody who was on today and may listen to this later. And yes, yeah. So We'll see you next week. It'll be at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. So if you're on the East Coast, that's 1 p.m. If you're on the Pacific Coast, that'll be 10 a.m. But we will be right here in this place, and we look forward to talking to you some more. Thank you.
Bye.